Hey and welcome to the Creative Odyssey podcast, a podcast about entrepreneurship, creativity, and personal growth by me, Emil Ruth. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. I'm here with Joel Pilger. And Joel, how are you?
I'm good. Very good to be with you, Emil.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. I mean, it's just morning for you over there.
Yes, It's a beautiful morning here in New York City.
Yeah, I had so many guests from New York City that I'm thinking about. Hypothetically going over there. It's not that short of a trip, but I could do so many in-person meetings and meetups over there. But I'm glad talking to you today. And tell me a bit about you. Who are you? Where are you coming from?
Well, I am a creative person who spent a career working in the creative industry. Nowadays I'm very focused on helping creative business founders master the art of the business. This means I work with business owners who run studios, production company, creative agencies that all produce content. So think of motion design, live action production, experiential sound and music. And I run a community of those founders. I advise and consult people one-on-one. I have a podcast. I host dinner series. Recently hosted one in Berlin, in your wonderful country. And
great.
Yeah. But before that, I've been doing this now for 11 years. But before that I spent a lifetime. I spent 20 years running my own studio and creative agency called Impossible Pictures that was based in Denver. And it was quite successful. And it was an amazing journey. But before that, I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I was the son of a Delta Airlines pilot who taught me a love of travel and entrepreneurship. And this is, of course, these are the highlights of my story. What else can I tell you?
Yeah, I know. When starting about getting your own story, we all start to ramble and mention the things that are close to our hearts rather than just jotting down a CV. I mean,
right.
But it's great that you built something on your own and then kind of ventured into more like consulting.
Mm-hmm.
And as I kind of understood it, did you do like movie and video production and these sort of things?
It was, it evolved over the years. It started as 3D and CGI and visual effects. Yeah. So that was my background as an animator and a compositor. And then it evolved into editorial work. And then we did a lot of creative direction work. But then ultimately we became an agency that was known for doing commercials and branding work. So we worked with a lot of TV networks and entertainment companies. We helped launch networks and do the branding and all the design for a number of television networks. So that was our specialty, but everything was content. So I had a lot of artists and animators and editors and producers that were on my team.
Yeah, I think this is one of the fields where you have the most comprehensive and diverse fields of people who are working on a project. For anyone who kind of needs to see the picture of like the end titles of a movie where it's like tons of people digest it into like if it's like a blockbuster Hollywood movie, you can see that, but at least half the people are needed for any shorter commercial as well. So
of course,
don't underestimate the importance of like managing a big team. I can probably feel how stressful this can be sometimes to manage so many people, and what was your role specifically in that case, running the agency or the studio, better said?
Yeah, it evolved and changed because over 20 years, the first decade, I was mostly an artist, right? I was an animator, a designer, creative director. And then as the business grew, we had a team of 25 full-time people plus 200 freelancers and crew and things like this. And as the business grew, my role really shifted to running the business, doing sales, business development, and this really was the thing that I loved doing, and it was one of the reasons that I'm now focused on what I do now, and that is I was really falling in love with a project called my business and helping that business be strong and grow. So I was managing people, I was hiring, I was doing business development, bringing in new clients, pitching new projects, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is definitely a different skill set and mindset you need to have, the more entrepreneurial, business-minded, and I see you're addressing the pain point of these creatives who do an amazing job and have their talents and everything, but find and not really get introduced into the business stuff or even find it dreadful at times. So why do you think so many, especially like creatives in all fields, struggle with the business side or get like anxious even when it comes to charging for creative stuff?
I mean, I think there's a myth, there's an illusion that's very common, and that is we are taught when we are young kids in school that if we follow the rules and if we learn to be talented and we practice, whether we go into music or if we go into art or something, we are often shown these heroes. So let's take Picasso for an example.
Yeah.
And we say, oh, if you're really great at this craft, this creative thing, you will be rich and you will be famous. And unfortunately, that is not reality. The reality is our work will not be enough, even if we are super talented and super creative, because a certain understanding and mastery of business is what enables our work to have impact and to have reach and have scale. And of course, as you said, to generate income, to charge higher fees and things like this. So I think there's like a stage in the creative person's career when they wish they didn't need to learn about business.
Yeah.
And then they grieve and they mourn and they say, oh, I think I have to learn these other things in order to be successful. And once they do, their journey now reaches an entirely new level and they become much more successful and happier. But it's difficult to let go of the original dream that if I just produce beautiful, great, creative work, everything else will be fine.
You'll then be discovered by some fortunate person patron who funds your art, and you will live lavishly just by pure talent. And I think this dream is somehow like a bug inside of your mind that will not let go so easily. And sometimes you will think, if I'm just be good enough or have enough talent, that will be enough. And I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would say, especially in America, it's really bad how there is a celebrity culture here, which we look at famous people. We look at someone, I don't know, influencers like a Kim Kardashian, or we look at these incredible musician artists like Beyonce. And there's an illusion of that one person is so talented that all of this wealth and fame and freedom is there because that person is so talented. But if you actually spend time with any of those people, they are running incredibly complex and sophisticated businesses, right? I bet Beyonce has 50 or 100 people that work for her.
Probably, yeah.
And right, she's running an incredible business. And I know her father because we did a project where we did a biography episode on her career. And her father is her business manager. And trust me, that person is incredibly sophisticated and absolutely focused on the business of making his daughter successful and famous and rich. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's really a thing, and glad that you brought up like the music industry here. As you probably did not know really about me before, I still produce music a lot, and I do it on my own terms now. This is like the short version, but I always, for years, I wanted to be a full professional music producer and do this be my main thing, and I learned everything. I learned the technical stuff in order to become a professional, but then I kind of grasped that I did not want to be in the music industry. I did not want to do music business. This is something that I did not like because a number of reasons, and I guess it's in various creative fields. And I wanted to work with other people and just do it for my own sake. This the discussion of whether I wanted to pursue it as my main focus of income, and I did not want it to be. So I kind of chose to get more into the entrepreneurial stuff in general. So not specific in the field, but to kind of learn how to realize ideas in general, to test them, to make offers and stuff like that before I even know what I wanted to do.
Interesting. Yeah, I can relate because I spent, maybe 5 or 10 years when I was in college, being part of a band and recording albums, and we saw some success. We toured, we performed live many places around the United States, and my best friend that was also part of this band, he spent like you a decade working as a producer, being a music producer, but after 10 years, he said, "I think I'm done because the industry has changed. There's a race to the bottom. Everyone is doing it for free or for very little money.
Yeah.
And, right, no one is spending $100,000 anymore to produce a great record because the economics changed." And it was interesting seeing him say, "I'm leaving the business to go do something else," which is a choice, right? And there's similar pressures happening in the creative industry where content makers now, right? There's proliferation of things like AI and other things. And some people are saying, "Hey, I don't want to enter the race to the bottom." So maybe they are leaving. But some people are saying, "Nope, we will continue to innovate and create new things and command high prices and so forth." So it's a very interesting time.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, and it's really a tough decision whether you want to generate your income mainly, as I would say, do it as your main profession, and you can. This goes for everyone who wants to create something. You don't need to have a career in everything at once. That doesn't make sense. To just find something you can really make your income, or can co-finance other things if you want to spend money on music production, which is really easy to do. You can easily spend a lot. I think it is close to photography. I will even say music production is more expensive to do, or kind of close off.
Right.
Yeah, as you just mentioned the race to the bottom. I just read that somewhere along the lines preparing for this. Why do you think this is so like a phenomenon that happens all the time?
It's a great question, and I can answer the question with a bit of context and history, because my career started in the, early 1990s.
Yeah.
But even as a kid, I saw this happening. There's a process that is always happening in the world. And perhaps you're familiar with the concept, familiar with the economist Joseph Schumpeter. Do you know this person?
Yeah.
So he was an Austrian economist, I believe, who talked about capitalism, and he defined this term called creative destruction.
Yeah.
Right? Where the process of new things being created actually destroys the previous world. And my favorite definition of this process was actually coined by Buckminster Fuller. The word he gave this process was, it's a very complicated English word, ephemeralization.
Yeah.
So ephemeral is something that is temporary, and ephemeralization is what he described as the ability to do more and more with less and less until you can eventually do everything with nothing.
Yeah.
And when I discovered that concept, it suddenly occurred to me, that's why these careers are so difficult, because every year there is a new technology or a new technique, or the tastes of the world shift and change.
Yeah.
So there is this constant, and I mean constant, disruption happening, where here is how I summarize it. Yesterday, or let's say last year, what you possessed as a talent that was an expertise, this year it's now just a service. And next year it will become a commodity.
Yeah.
So this is the process. What happens, and why it's so difficult, is as a young person, perhaps we go to university and we learn a skill like animation. And we are probably told you can have a career doing this thing you enjoy.
Yeah.
And you go to work, and then 5 years, 10 years later, you realize, you think, oh, I have mastered this skill. I can do this the rest of my life, and I will be successful, and I will have a good income. And that is not true.
Yeah.
Look at the famous Disney animators who drew characters by hand, and they were masters at their craft. And in the late 90s, when the transition went to digital and digital ink and paint, most of those incredibly talented people left. They quit. They didn't want to change and learn the new way to do ink and paint.
Yeah.
So this is why it's so difficult, because as human beings, we don't like change. We want to be comfortable. We want to make a good living. We want to practice our craft and be creative. And unfortunately, this is only getting worse, because now, instead of the entire industry changing every 10 years, it changes every 5 years, every 3 years, every 2 years.
Yeah, the cycle definitely gets a lot shorter, and it happens so fast. I mean, if you think back 200 years ago, learning like a real profession as like being a woodworker, a carpenter, will have you make a living, and it will not change the whole time your life. You have a whole lifetime, and you probably learn it while you're still like 15 or something, and until you die could be your profession, and you will just have like a skill, and you can master that, and there's demand, and even you can pass it on to your children, and they can learn it when they're young, and they will become carpenters, and you have maybe a few generations worth of knowledge, and now it's just gone in a year. You learn very like fluctuating skill sets, and I think it's one part is that it's frustrating for someone who learned the craft to then be even take a step back, and they basically with the animation you're saying them your art is not valuable anymore. Not meaning it's not good or it's not beautiful or your skill doesn't matter at all, but it is not of value for like the industry. And I think it's kind of insulting for someone.
Oh, of course, because, and this is part of the reason, Emil, it's so difficult for creatives, is because as creative people, we are not like doctors or attorneys or dentists, right? Or bookkeepers, whatever. Like, we create something, and that thing that we create, we identify with it.
Yeah.
It is an expression of ourselves. So when that thing is created and the market pays us money for that thing, yay, that's wonderful. I'm valuable. Now when the market says, we don't pay money for that anymore, right? Now our identity is being told, you have no value. So it's a very difficult transition for a creative person to separate from the creative work and to not identify with it. But this I think is part of the journey.
Yeah, I think it's so hard. I can see many creatives. They need to be so attached to what they do in order to create their best work. I can't see someone who is starting to work with, I have no personal relation to what I'm creating at all, and still be really like great. Yeah. You can do something you don't like, you don't feel, and just say it's good because you're a master at your craft. But I think you need to be like personally involved to create a masterpiece. But then you need to then be detached and say, this has nothing to do with me. It's like, I don't know, like a child maybe, something of your possession. You need to just cut it off and let go.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think Rick Rubin has some good advice for us. One way I think of it is I think of commercial art and fine art.
Yeah.
And commercial art is the thing that I create and I sell it and I give it away and I let go of it. And it no longer is an expression of my identity.
Yeah.
Because, right, when we have a client who pays us money to create something, the client is telling us, make the logo bigger, right? Change the color from blue to red. So it's really a collaboration. So therefore, it's not me. It's something that I create with my skill and my talent. Now, fine art is something very different. That is something that I create for me. And I don't care what anyone thinks. No one has to love it. No one is paying me money to create it. I create it for me.
Yeah.
Now, if I someday decide I will sell that, okay, sure, maybe, but it is my creation. No one helped me create it. There was no patron. There was no client.
Yeah.
It is my creation. Different, very different type of work.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It's more the first thing is more like an act of service, where you provide your skill, being like a medium, someone who translates the ideas into something.
Right.
And this is obviously still valuable. You cannot just say, yeah, we don't need a graphic designer. We just ChatGPT image create everything, and then you will see that you cannot, print a big ass JPEG file on something and it looks horrible. And you will see there's always the shortcuts. If you take them too often and too many times, then they will fire back eventually, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So race to the bottom, definitely. So it is the skill becomes like less. It is. I mean, it's simpler to attain the skill. I mean, even like cutting out images digitally was such a pain a few years ago. You need to be like very fine lines and outlining a person, and it took me I don't know, half an hour to get it right, and it was definitely not fun. Now it just is in a matter of 3 seconds, and you have like cut out pictures, and I love that. That is, for me, this is nothing where I kind of disvalue the artificial intelligence in that, where I say I'm totally fine. It is even better than I am, because I'm just making straight lines and have like a whole cut out vibe to it. I mean, that's something.
It's really interesting, the point you're making, because I'm going to generalize here, and I have to be careful, but many people that view AI as a threat are the people who would say, no, Emil, I want to spend my career rotoscoping, cutting photos, people cutting out photos of people from backgrounds. And when we put it that way, we realize we never cared. The dream was never, I'm going to spend my career cutting people out of a background. And if I can press a button and it's done, okay, I understand that's very disruptive, because maybe people paid you a lot of money to do that. Yeah. Now we can do it for free. But I don't think that's a really interesting career.
No, I think this is like the most dreadful graphic design career you could have.
Right?
Imagine
Agreed.
that.
Yeah, I used to do rotoscoping where we had to create a mask frame by frame by frame by frame, right? Because someone is running and we need to cut them out of the background and composite them into something else. And like you said, it was the most miserable, annoying, frustrating work. But it had to be done. And I am so thankful I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. So one thing I really learned about like working with technology and keeping up with technology is that humans all the time are with and coming from technology. So technology just basically, even using cutlery is a technology, and nobody's blaming cutlery and just thought, why don't you use our hands to eat? We do have them, and we always had them. But think about your bookshelf. I'm pretty sure you're happy that you can just buy printed books and don't have to like write every single piece of knowledge you want to have into a book. And we need to embrace the technology. I can see AI is really fast, and it's sometimes a bit scary what you can do, and you can fake a lot more. And it's so good. It is so good that it's almost human. But like keeping up with technology is what is a central part of being human. I mean,
I love the example of a fork and a knife as technology, because it's so normal, ubiquitous, right? Yes, we use these tools. These are technologies that we have created as humans in order to make it easier to eat. And you're right, the purist who says, I don't like new technology because it changes the established norm. It changes the way we do things. You're right. You can eat with your hands if you prefer.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's
interesting.
Occasionally, it's better. I mean, if you're eating a pizza or something like that, you can use your hands. But I don't know the right terminology or like different of a tool and a technology. But I would say like a tool would enable a different technology or something like that. I'm not a linguist, so don't keep my word on that. And but I think keeping up with technology is something great. I don't see anyone dismiss like cameras or something like that. Or, I mean, it would be very frustrating to picture a painting of your whole family every time, like holidays are, and you want to take a group picture. And there's different arts.
It's interesting.
And,
because even a brush and mixing paints is now you're talking about tools and you're talking about technology. But actually cameras have been very disruptive because there was a time in my life in the 1990s that cameras shot only film. And then they shifted to digital. And many people said, this is bad. This is terrible, right? Because of aesthetic and technical reasons. And yes, for a short time, the digital cameras were not as good technology. They were not as beautiful or as accurate, whatever. But now, it's like the people who embraced those new technologies have been afforded or given enormous advantages of what these new tools can do. And in the hands of a cinematographer or a photographer, oh my God, it's amazing what these talented people, not the tools, right? The people, the creatives, can create using those technologies.
Yeah, definitely. It gets more mainstream and more people can do something as basic as taking a picture of your family would have a very different meaning a few 100 years ago. And that would be something only rich people could do and afford to do. And now anyone can take a picture on the whole planet. And I think this is something that benefits like all kinds of people. So the creatives can do many great things, and you have like ultra high resolution, almost better resolution than real life. You cannot even see the difference. And so many different like CGI effects that are close to like reality, and you can do like great cinema with that. But this like the technological advancement should be beneficial for anyone, and especially the real creatives will have their heads up in the whole puddle of thousands and millions and billions of images and videos uploaded every day. I don't know how many.
Yeah, well, there's a interesting lesson from history that I can mention, which is there was a textile and fabric designer, William Morris, that rather famously resisted mass production in the textile industry. And I can't remember the years this was. I think this was in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
And he said, he resisted and said, no, we will not change to mass production. We will create wallpaper that is beautiful and fine and detailed and all these things. And what's interesting is he continued to produce that work, and it was so expensive that only the most wealthy people could afford his wallpaper. And it's an example where many people look back and say his work could have had much more impact on the world if he had embraced technology. And an interesting example is, you might be familiar with the Bauhaus, which I think is an interesting example for us as creatives to look at, because I was trained as an industrial designer, and we, in industrial design, we worship the Bauhaus because it was such an important time in history when design became, the the craft and this art
Yeah.
that we all now recognize, and it's part of our lives. What's interesting is the Bauhaus was like the AI of its day, because the Bauhaus embraced mass production. But it embraced it in a way, it said, we are going to bring design to the masses.
Yeah.
Whereas the previous generation, which is exemplified by William Morris, said, no, we will never mass produce. We will always focus on craft and creating the beautiful thing with our hands. And it's interesting how William Morris, beautiful artist, amazing. But he viewed the Bauhaus as the enemy, the disruption. It was like AI in his day. But now we look back and we say, oh, the Bauhaus, what an amazing movement that it created in the world and changed how we mass produce and how we design things. And ultimately, I would submit, make the world better.
Yeah, you got me there, because I wouldn't really say that I'm a huge Bauhaus fan, but I'm very fascinated with it and do like their rethinking. And generally, you don't need to buy into like the whole catalog of a whole movement. But
right. I
think there's some great, as you could probably, it's a hard term, but rather timeless design that, I mean, from that perspective, work still from the time that they were created until now. They have like classics, the chairs, the lamps, so the lighting, room design, buildings that still don't really look dated. And I don't know if that will change, but the way that they see design and the simplification of like the shapes and everything is something where they thought through that we can have like really thought about design that will stand the time and will be accessible. And that is really something that did not happen before, because like there was, as I said, like the woodworkers, the craftsmen, the people who are professional in their field, they will be the one responsible for the creation of a chair maybe. And now it's someone working with their mind creating a chair that will be fulfilled and mass produced. And it is funny that these things are still more valuable in terms of cost sometimes than older chairs that with their fails and flaws. And but Bauhaus is really a great movement when you will if you want to get into design or architecture or color theory or whatever. If you're a creative, just read a bit about Bauhaus. It's my recommendation, probably yours too.
Yes, of course.
Great point. Yeah, so I'm all in for like rambling and going off track on my podcast, but I'm still curious, how do all of these valuable things and pieces of knowledge translate into your current business, what you're doing right now?
Oh, well, that's a really good question. I think I would say that everything I've learned is focused on helping the creative people of the world have impact.
Yeah.
And for their work to be recognized, to be appreciated, for their work to have an impact. And this is why so much of my focus is teaching people the business side of creativity, because business is the way our creative work will have reach, will have scale, will have impact, and will also generate money so we can afford to have a good living and have an income. But this is like, it's like a lifelong school.
Yeah.
As a creative person, navigating business, learning how to run business, learning how to manage business, learning how does my creative work solve the world's problems. And the other thing that I know is that the world right now needs the creatives, the artists, the poets, the musicians, the philosophers, right? The painters, the dancers, more than ever.
Yeah,
more than
right.
ever.
I agree.
Right? So this is so important to the future of mankind. So the sooner we creative people master the art of business, the better for the entire world.
Yeah, that's a really great mission statement as you just said it out loud. And I can totally see myself a bit more into it because even though I'm pursuing like both things, like learning entrepreneurship as in my studies and like in different projects, like for example, this podcast is one of my projects, and more of my creative pursuits, which I just currently have on hold for my personal for fulfillment and doing them just for me. I still not have like the magic trick to combine it. Actually, I know both will influence each other, but I don't feel like these are like an aligned vision. And I see creatives. It's like going back to the example of the superstar creatives. For example, like Pharrell Williams and like these polymathic, talented people who have like 3, 4, 5 different crazy good projects running, and they all kind of work and fit together. So this is something I'm still struggling with, to have like make all of them work. I would love to.
Yeah, I hear you. This is the journey, right? Is navigating this career, and on the one hand, mastering the craft, the creative work that we do, and becoming a more talented artist, or whatever word you use, but also navigating a thing called a career. Because if we don't learn how to make money, how to have an impact, then our creative work will not survive. It will not continue. It will become disrupted, and it will go away, and we will be forced to live a different career, and the world will suffer as a result.
Yeah, that's I think that's like the nightmare of any kind of creative, is to try and like give everything and try to make your creative thing, whatever it is, work, and then fail and do work as in, I don't know, filling in the shelves at the convenience store or whatever, and to not have anything of creative where you cannot express yourself at all. I think it's like they don't have any strategy when it comes to this, and it's like the business side you just mentioned. In order to make your craft or your talent, your special something, your talent survive, you need to have like a business. And I can see this in like pop stars, singers, where you can see, you would probably say, they're not even that good. Why are they on the radio? Yeah, this is because it's a whole business around them, and they are set up for success. And they try to make it work and have contacts, and they have managers, and they make contracts. And it's not because they're like the super mega talented Mozart kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's so true.
Yeah. Do you have any like practical tips that, I mean, it's definitely highly individual, but have you some like general tips you can maybe give me to get more like on the business side without being like overly managerial and like for an artist, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. There's a common journey that I take people through when they work with me to help them gain a foundation in good creative business practices. And it's a journey I call Jumpstart, because this is often what helps people jumpstart their business.
Yeah.
But that journey is several steps. And the journey begins with identifying your genius, which is what some might call your superpower, right? Your greatest gift. Because once you're clear about what is that thing that you love doing and that brings you energy and that produces really big results in the world, your next step is what I call positioning, which is how do I turn that into a business and how do I express it in the world to the marketplace so that people are curious about it. They are excited about it. They want it. Then your next step on that journey is qualifying, meaning how do I know which opportunities are a good fit for me and my business and my talents? And from there, the next step in the journey is pricing, because I must learn how to get every dollar or euro or pound out of my client's pocket. Why? Because I have an ethical obligation to produce the best possible result, which means I need all the money that the client has. And if they give me all their money, I will produce the most effective, awesome, creative work for them that I can. And so this is maybe the most simple version of the journey or tips that I would give someone is genius, positioning, qualifying, and pricing. I call this overall the journey from moving from order taker to expert.
That's great. So thank you again for summarizing your framework, and I think this is something that really works. And for me, congrats on that you have a good mission statement and a great formulaic method. This is something I really appreciate and like to see as someone who thinks creative and entrepreneurial creative in that lens. So
you're so welcome.
Yeah. And do you have any book recommendations? Maybe I always ask for book recommendations at the end.
Oh my gosh. I really like Rick Rubin's book. I think is quite good, The Creative Act. And I'm also thinking of some business classics. Like one book that is a classic is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Very much a classic book that is still very meaningful and helpful. I'm also thinking of I'm spacing on the title now. Hang on, let me look it up real quick. It was Jim Collins. Good to Great.
Yeah.
Is also
Sounds familiar.
A classic that is very powerful and disruptive. And then I think also, just as someone who is curious and I enjoy a good intellectual challenge, I like Malcolm Gladwell. All of his books, I would start with Blink as a great book. I bumped into him recently here in New York in the West Village, and I thought, oh, there he is. He's still writing and doing his thing. But I think his books are quite thought provoking. I don't agree with everything all of his conclusions.
Yeah.
But like his 10,000 hours, I think concept is something very similar to what I have discovered about genius, as I call it. Because the idea of if you spend 10 years focusing on your genius, I've observed that you will become a recognized leader in your field. So it's very similar to his 10,000 hours concept that I can't remember. Did that come out in Outliers or I forget? I don't know which book was of him. I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, I think it's probably Outliers. I'm not sure, but definitely. But you said something very important. You don't need to have to agree with everything in order to gain something out of a book or a perspective in general.
That's right.
That's what our perspective's for. Yeah. But
and by the way, it is Outliers that the 10,000 hour rule appeared.
Yeah. It's also a great book, and I'm doubling down on the Rick Rubin one. You cannot see it, but I got it on my shelf. I was fortunate enough to see Rick Rubin on stage last year to have as in a speaker event, and it's a trendy word, but he has aura. He has a presence on stage that is really very cool and a calming voice, and I like his philosophical way to see creativity. Thank you again for weighing in on the recommendation, and thank you for taking the time again, and I'm happy to do this one more time. Maybe if we switch roles, I'm open for that. So that's good on my side.
Emil. Thank you so much. It was great having a conversation with you today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You're welcome.
If you've enjoyed listening to my podcast, you can show support by following me and hit the bell to never miss out on my latest content. I'd appreciate a positive review too. You can find more of my content on www.emilruth.com. Thanks and bye for now.